let's welcome Mr. Mohammed Khalil, General Manager of Baxter Company Limited. A loud round of applause for our next panel discussion, and the floor is yours.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And our session right now will be a panel discussion. I would like to welcome our team for this session. Mr. Abdul Razak, please. Mrs. Shu Gooden. Anthony Jude. And, of course, Marcus, but his name is missing here. Mr. Marcus, please. Welcome all. This session, I hope it will be an interactive session because we all are facing right now the technology and how it's affecting our lives and patient lives. We would like to talk more today thoroughly about the venture care and AI, artificial intelligence, how it could affect our patients and even our employees. So in the beginning, I would like to each of my colleagues to introduce himself, his background, and then we can start our discussion. So Marcus, please.
Thank you so much. So I'm Marcus, and I'm in the healthcare pharmaceutical industry for the last 15 years. The most recent time I spent in the healthcare industry, building up the leading German outpatient intensive care provider, which I think is fits perfectly to the topic which we are facing today. Sue?
Hi, my name is Sue Gooden, and I have an organization called Progressive Health Center and Progressive Health. We're an integrative health and wellness center, so we focus on hospital employees, physicians, and nurses. We oversee around 3,000 employees right now, 3,000 nurses, and around 500 physicians, working with them on creating a healthy, happy approach to their job, which isn't always that easy. Our focus is on reducing their stress and improving their resilience, and basically offering them an opportunity through a wellness lounge to be able to regroup and relax and help themselves with their ability to take care of themselves.
Good morning, all of you. Thank you very much for IFAH for this opportunity to be a member of the panel to discuss on this particular topic today. Myself, Abdul Razak, I am into healthcare for the last 10 years. I have been into last 20 years into human resource management. So aligning HR strategy with the organizational goals, that is what my platform actually. I have been in this country for the last 7-8 years, and I'm a part of the development of healthcare in this country, especially in Abu Dhabi.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Anthony. I've been in the healthcare industry or preventive healthcare medicine for the last 15 years, very much based in Thailand and Asia. And I have a very massive experience also in the hospitality industry for 26 years. And of the last 6 years, I founded this company called AJT that carries 2 brands. One brand is basically focused on medical, which is Dr. Map, and another brand which focuses on Wellity, which we bring wellness to hospitality. Thank you.
Wow, what a diverse team we have here from different sectors. About myself, I would like to introduce myself, Mohammed Khalil. I work for Baxter International in Saudi Arabia. I have been experienced for the last 25 years in the healthcare sector and pharma, providing recent outcomes of our companies for the healthcare professionals. And thank you for choosing me as a moderator for this session, because in the beginning I would like to share one of our key success in Saudi Arabia, where in the area that we work. We work in peritoneal dialysis, which treatment of renal failure patients. And the beauty out of the peritoneal dialysis is about home care. So imagine that patient has to go 3 times a week, day after day, to perform hemodialysis, while there's another form of treatment, which is peritoneal dialysis, where patients can receive their treatment at home. The more beauty and what really made an evolution in our market in Saudi Arabia with the PD is the new technology that Baxter has globally, where we have a SIM card inside the machine. And after every single dialysis session for the patient, all the data of that session of dialysis will receive at the physician file or hospital. So with this remote monitoring of the patient outcome, and I will talk laterly about the global clinical outcome out of remote monitoring of the patient, and we will talk more about the virtual care. So I will start right now with Marcus. Marcus, as you mentioned, you are in the healthcare field, healthcare providers. You have outpatients around Germany with more than 4,000 patients, nurses and workers with you. I would like to understand from your view, how can AI affect within your organization and patients as well as employees?
If you're looking at it, and as you said, I think you have 3 or angles where the technology can help. One is, of course, improve the quality for the patient. Why? Because if you're using the modern technology, you have, let's say, for the patient, you can monitor the patient, for instance, constantly. So you have all the parameters on a real-time basis with a real-time history. Secondly, if you're also looking in the terms of the available treatments, you can compare the patient also, let's say, to his peers, and you have always, let's say, access to the most proper way of the treatment. If we're looking at it, as I said, 3 options. One is, of course, very essential from my point of view, is the training of the staff, of the nurses. How are the nurses trained today? Usually we're using puppets, and they have, let's say, trainings, but not with real patients. Or they're looking at it, and they monitor, and then they maybe assist it, and throughout the time, they are allowed to do more. What we can do in terms of virtual training, you can do it like simulations, like we have with the pilots. So you can train any specific situation much, much faster, which I think is essential. So in that respect, I think you can have specific trainings and faster trainings. And finally, when we're speaking also about the happiness of the nurses, what we have in today, we're seeing that the nurses doing a big amount of their time they're spending on administration work, so filling out reports, everything else. So if all this is done automatically, it frees up time for the nurses, the time they can spend with the patient. And also if you're doing, let's say, the entire way of the handover of the documentation, because the patient is there for 24 hours. The nurse or the single nurse not, because they're working in shifts. So you have no losing elements during the handover aspect. So I think AI or virtual technology is helpful, but it's at the end, it's a tool to benefit the patient and the nurses.
You touch, Marcus, a very strong point about our employees and how can we make them happier and better compliance within work. My question will go to Sue. As you work directly, as we discussed, directly with the healthcare professionals, physicians, nurses, to ensure their health and their lifestyle. From your experience working very closely with the healthcare professionals, how do you see that AI, is it helping within your industry, or is it something that it's against what you are doing in your daily work?
AI, I think, can be very helpful, but for us, it's encouraging them to have a balance, because all we hear is physicians and nurses spending too much time on the computer and not really taking care of themselves or taking care of the patients. So our approach is very integrative in that we're trying to give them the balance that they need to be able to sustain and encourage them not to be on their phones or doing all the computer stuff on a regular basis. Because we're all about the human touch, so our goal has really been to balance that.
Thank you. Talking again about the employees and satisfaction, and Abdul Razak, based on your experience, vast experience working with HR, and in the last 10 years working with the healthcare, how, from your perspective, how can we really ensure that this AI that we bring to our employees or to our staff can ensure happiness and positive culture within the organization?
Thank you, sir. First thing, we cannot run away from AI. It is already there or in our hand, in our life, it is there. And it is going to be. Even the work culture, the work situations, the working economy, it's completely going to be changed in another 5-7 years. The gig economy system will come. So we are into a drastic change pattern. The new generations are entirely different. The way of thinking is different. No one required to work on process jobs nowadays. It's all AI's jobs. You know the process, you defined it, let the computer or the robot do it. Wherever you need the creativity, more ideologies, as said, the human touch, these kind of things only actually people require to work. Other things the machines will do. Earlier it have been done by, for example, in HR, payroll, nowadays we are not processing payroll. It's automatically system generates the payroll. I don't want a payroll officer, no more. So there is a lot of things in our day-to-day life and into healthcare and employees' life, AI is coming. So how virtual care will come for happy and healthier employees, my idea is entirely different. When the healthcare, we are all health conscious nowadays. Not unlikely to our predecessors, we are very health conscious. Even I am sitting, I am conscious about my posture, right? So this is, we are health conscious. We have a lot of physiotherapists here. So I am aware of ergonomics. So we are all health conscious people. So we work is not a worship or a part of life. It's just a means to life. So life has an entirely different definition for the new generation especially. We all getting into adapting. We may have a different opinion about it. But that is what the world is going on. So when organizations are spending a lot for the health and well-being of employees, which will lead, of course, to the productivity of the organization, they invest a lot into the health and well-being of the employees. The virtual care will, of course, reduce it. That is what going to happen. Every employee feeling sick on the morning need not to go to a doctor nowadays. So whenever this AI comes into the picture, there is a lot of things up to the primary care nowadays. AI, with the AI support we can do. We were discussing before the session, in Singapore, you may be well aware that there is something called Smart Future kiosks. Those kiosks are not supported by any human being. It's all completely automated kiosks where you can go and check yourself. You can do a lot of kind of screenings over there, even if all primary screenings and primary cares can be done by the kiosk, and kiosk will you will have a personal healthcare data which is in the cloud and can be accessed by any time. So what I want to conclude is employees' well-being, where the organization has a vital role over there and they spend for it. This AI and virtual care will save a lot that will lead to the healthier and happier life, in short, the well-being of the employees. That is what the benefit which we are going to have. Especially, I'm showing justice to this topic, and this topic is absolutely correct in my point of view.
Thank you. Thank you, Abdul. I will go to Anthony. Anthony, you are an investor on business. You have been a wide experience in hospitality business. And shifting to healthcare, which is, I would like to come from your experience with hospitality. We all know that the first or the most important part of hospitality is quality of service that you provide. My question for you, Anthony, how correlation you see between the AI, big data you have, and the quality of service that you provide for the end user, either customer for hospitality or a patient or a healthcare provider in a healthcare environment?
Thank you. Well, first thing first, I think AI is something that we say it's something that we can't let go of. How many of us here in the room is monitoring our businesses by using application on our phone? I can see very big. This is our life, isn't it? So this is really AI. So in the hospitality industry of providing services, be it in the hospital or being in a resort or hotel, is monitoring. So I think the key thing of that has simplified and taken over AI, taken over the service part is things like the point of sales, when you're putting your orders, patients' data collections, online consultancy. All this has really efficient many process in terms of work and providing the services. So in terms of hospitality, what is the key thing is in terms of it is monitoring. Monitoring, even with the extension of providing human touch to double audit to make sure that things are in the right perspective. Giving you an example like putting in orders in for the kitchen. Those days when I was, in the younger days when I was a waiter, I'll be taking orders and writing down the doneness of the steak, what are the side dish to be done. But today, virtual AI has really taken over that. All the waiter need to do is just click, or you could click it from your ordering table and put in your request. And the chef will just create what they want according to your request, but at the final stage is still the chef will have to look at the presentation. So giving it a balance between putting data information, monitoring, it's still a human touch. In a medical field whereby we are concept and innovators, we use a lot of AI in terms of back end, in terms of data collection of customers' profile, integrating their medical records from different institutions. Previously, when we do any medical services or any health checks, our medical records basically sits in our cupboard, right? Today it's different. It's out in the cloud. Processes can be done any part of the world. All you need is just a consent from the patient and doctors from any part of the world. And this is today's modern medicine, whereby any doctors of an institution, and each specialist could basically be a consultant to the patient. Need not to be going back to the respective clinics. So AI is taking over by storm, that's for sure. We can't go away from it. But I think what's most important now is the audit and the monitoring in this industry.
You mentioned one very important point, Anthony, that we are using cloud to secure or to save most of our data. From your point of view, what about security? About the information that are being saved here or there? How can we ensure or set a way to ensure the privacy of the data that we have?
Well, I wish I can really go into specific. I'm not a technical expert, but I think the cloud is something that we have to use. I think very soon the mobile phone that we're carrying doesn't come with any saving modality. It all will be saved in the cloud. So I think in Singapore we read about a couple of months back or a year back about medical services that there was a leak in data information. I think this is something that we always need to back up with basically our base server. In my recommendation as a consulting to all our clients, we always recommend cloud because the cost of the CAPEX is much lower. But nevertheless, there must be always an in-house server to back up the services. And I think for cloud service, I think there are many platforms that we could basically security and double check what information that we would like to really keep on the cloud. And basically what informations we would like to keep in our server. I think that mix and composition will be basically depend on the type of medical business or hospitality business that you're in. That's what I will do in terms of backing up.
Great. Abdurazak, I
I-
felt you need to participate.
I just want to add something to this. In Abu Dhabi, we recently started something called Malafi. You can Google it. In the YouTube, it is there. There's a video, which a short description by the Department of Health. What is Malafi? Malafi is a centralized data system for the patient's data in Abu Dhabi. So a patient who goes to any clinic, any hospital will have a data in the medical records, which will be centralized, and it can be accepted by any physicians at a point of time whenever treatment is required with the consent for sure. This privacy and confidentiality and all, it's a double question. Facebook knows about you better than you know about you. So the answer for this is blockchain. We are all getting into blockchain, so that will give more data security. We all believe that. It's all still has to, we have a session, I think, today or tomorrow. So we'll listen from the experts about blockchain, how it's going to happen. So data security can be addressed by this. This privacy, it's according to you define what is your privacy. If you don't want to give your privacy to access to someone else, you can control it, but you will have the freedom. You have a personal data in the system. So you can control it. You will have an access it. Like you protect your phone with a password from your wife, you can do it from the public.
Thank you, Abdurazak. Sue, I will have a question for you. For within the artificial intelligence, during your sessions, coaching sessions with your customers, how much of AI can help? We heard from you that sometimes it be controversial within your business, but how can you get benefits out of AI within your field?
I think the biggest thing that we've done from an AI standpoint is we created an app so that the employees can go to the app and download all the information on health and wellness, realizing the reducing of stress, things like that. The other thing that we're doing is being able to make their lives easier through AI or through the app so that they can communicate with us. We also have health coaches so that if they get from a digital standpoint, they can interface with us and get more information with a health coach on how to take care of themselves. So that's another thing that we've done, that we do have some AI, and it has made it more efficient for hospital employees and nurses who are very limited in particular times. So we're trying to make their life easier from the efficiency standpoint.
Great. Marcus, within your industry, you rely on a mass empowerment bodies. Do you think that AI could affect negatively employment? I mean, of course, AI will make the information easier, faster for us, but sometimes you might need to cut some of the jobs. Do you see this could happen or could be coming when Germany within your workforce?
Even though we're speaking a lot about AI and disruptive, let's say, effects in the industry, I wouldn't see this in the care industry. I would see it totally different. I would see this as an enabler for the care industry because it could relieve a lot of the burden from the care personnel. So let's say it's becoming more attractive for what your profession is. You would like to take care of patients. So I think this is more from an attractive point of view to see, which would result in higher retention rate. Because if you're looking at the care personnel, and it's not just a German-specific topic, I think it's a worldwide specific topic, we are lacking significantly resources in the care field. And if you're just looking at the demographics in Western Europe or the US, about 50% of them are close to retirement age. What will happen if they go on retirement? So anything that we can do to retain the personnel, I think is a clear benefit. And additionally, if I think if you're getting away from all the paperwork towards electronic-based, making this whole care, nursing jobs more attractive by this, I think also then the perception is something totally different, and people are eager to volunteer for this job.
Forgot to mention is one of the things that we do is it has helped us create data for the organization. And most hospitals look at training their employees from a technical standpoint, not a work-life balance. So from that perspective, we can show them how stressed out their employees are and how they should be investing in those employees, because it costs you about $52,000 to replace a nurse, costs you up to $1 million to replace a physician.
Right. The topic I want to discuss as well, that we all believe and we can see that technology in healthcare and continuous innovation, which really can make a difference between different companies, healthcare. Recently, and as you, Abdulrazak, just mentioned, that even governments started to go more and more in AI and virtual care. As you mentioned, in Abu Dhabi, already you are on the process for making a big app. We know in Saudi Arabia already, there is an app which is applicable for all citizens and expats living in Saudi, that they can have a virtual care directly from the physician within MOH through the app. Anthony, this question will refer to you. Will we see in the next future competition between the private sector healthcare companies and governments for, ensuring the technology and innovation, which could have a cost in the beginning, but in long term, no, it will be beneficial?
I think yes, it will be. In my part of the business, as a consulting investors and as well as management, when we speak to our business partners, many of the business partners that we see, they still would like to have the human touch in the upfront, but the backup is all in terms of investment and working with the right partners to provide full technology in terms of AI and virtual. So, and in today's business, in my topic tomorrow, talking about involving business in wellness and medical, and I see a lot of our partners in terms of creating medium-sized medical centers. So medium-sized medical centers, which talking about 5,000 square meters, we see more of the capital expenses are affordable rather than putting on 400-bed hospital. So I do see the competition coming up generally quite big in the medical centers and wellness centers. So yes, it will be a big competition. But nevertheless, many investors are still looking the front line to be customer service, because where we come from Asia, especially from Thailand, the service is always something that you want that human touch not to be lost. So yes, to answer your question directly, yes, there will be a big competition coming up. We are working with a few projects around our region, and we are investing quite a fair bit in terms of data entries, marketing, social medias, how AI could basically take over this platform with minimized manpower in terms of maximizing value.
Thank you. Abdulrazak, my question will be for you, as you mentioned a couple of while, that you are already in the process of investing in an app for UAE government, or especially Abu Dhabi, and you will start there. If I want to talk about your key challenges for such a project, how can you define key challenges?
First challenge was the buy-in. The people has to accept this, like the apprehension that that the first thing every employee, every doctor in an hospital, they do that, they sign a confidentiality statement, right? So they will come to know each and everything about this particular patient, and that confidentiality, that is which thing we keep with our heart as an ethical practice, and we will not disclose the confidentiality until it is really warranted. So that is the first concern which has to be addressed. We need a lot of education to the public that this data security, this is, if you believe that your data is safe with your particular family physician or the clinic or the hospital which you are used to. It will be more safer in a data center where it is centralized, and whenever it is required with your consent, it is accessed. Only in the case of emergency we may violate this, but still, otherwise it is with the consent. So that is the first and major things. Now, the people will have a problem that I have my own patient data, right? That is what my business. So commercially thinking, I have my own patients, my own customers. I am always thinking and talking about retaining my customers. So I am worried when this patient has go to a competitive hospital or a provider, all this data which I have saved in my system, which is my control over the patient, has maybe lost. That is also need a lot of awareness and education to the providers enough that we are doing actually. So the buy-in is very, very fast, but the public buy-in may take a little more time. So we think that by 2020 will be the year we will completely establishing these things. We have done a lot of things in Abu Dhabi, and of course we will be doing this as well.
So,
Thank you.
may I please interrupt?
Please.
We talk about a lot artificial intelligence, deep machine learning, neural learning. There's a good AI, there's a bad AI, but we never have seen the cohort of comparing the R square value, yeah? So 1 million out of 1 million is 100% for some people in a good AI. But 1 trillion out of 1 trillion is 100% for some of the best AI. So have you considered what a good AI will look like, a basic number? Because I can give you 1,000 out of 1,000, and that will be considered as R square value of 1. But actually, in the real world, it's not good enough.
Anthony Abdulrazak, we would like to comment.
Raise the question. I didn't catch exactly what the point you were asking about.
So-
The good and bad part of the AI you are talking about.
No. What I'm talking about, the quality of the AI. So artificial intelligence is as good as your algorithm is, yeah? And it's all the components must achieve R square value of 1. That means that AI is performing to the 100%. So if you have 1,000 samples and 1,000 out of 1,000 doing good, we'll consider that as 100% or R square value as 1. But if you have 1 trillion sample of data and that performing 1 trillion times out of decision, which is right, that R square value will be 1. So what is the good AI will look like? Is it on the million data points, trillion data points, or 1 gazillion data points? That's what I'm trying to get to.
They're talking about the volume of
Correct.
AI. Like I'm not an AI expert, so we will have AI experts here in the other sessions, I believe. I'm not an AI expert, but what we see, the growth of AI into our life, it's very, very fast. In a very tremendous way, it is every stage, there is a lot of R&D is going on in every field, not only into healthcare. So maybe in another 5 to 10 years, we are always targeting and talking about 2030. Most of our services, 2027, we are predicting the gig economy will be completely into phase. So by that time, AI will be the decision-making point. So I cannot tell the penetration rate of AI into the human's life at this stage. We all have to watch this. Maybe someone in the group who can talk better
Thank
about
you
it.
very much.
Maybe me to add. I think in a hypothetical, ideal world, we have all the information available at one AI. So it's of course, a trillion important points is better than a billion or a million. However, on the other side, I think we need a starting point. And the starting point is especially if you're looking at the healthcare industry, you have a lot of information that you say you can gather and you can combine with the treatments. So it grows over the time. I would always start with the underlying parameters that are essential that could help.
Apologies, the time is up for this session. As I always urge, you can always network and ask your questions. I'm very sorry because we have a full day and a full schedule ahead. Thank you very much for the panelists. A big round of applause. Thank you for your excitement and all the questions.